4 of the 20 highest-grossing movies of all time came out this year. That stat, of course, is skewed by rising ticket prices and increases in population. Adjusted for inflation, no movie can match the $3.7 billion haul that Gone with the Wind's $390 million box office receipts since its 1939 release would be worth in today's dollars. But here, we're looking at the highest-grossing movies in gross dollar receipts. Welcome to World Top Record Channel. Today, we're gonna introduce you the 10 highest-grossing movies of all time. Before we begin, if you like the video, please be sure to subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. With the exception of Titanic and 2 Disney films, every single movie below is part of a franchise, making us believe that there were probably some studio execs at Paramount or 20th Century Fox trying to convince James Cameron that he should do a sequel. Are we sure that Jack really dies? Can he come back as a ghost? Speaking of Cameron, directing the 2 biggest box office hits of all time is quite a feat. One we're sure hasn't gone to his head. That they were so different, an historic romance drama and a sci-fi action/adventure, makes it all the more impressive. The Russo Brothers are the only other directors on this list with 2 entries, and both of those were established Marvel properties they were handed, though we do admire what they did with the Captain America movies. There are some highly enjoyable movies on here and some films that we can only shake our heads at and marvel at the worldwide moviegoer. Here are the 10 highest-grossing movies of all time. Number 10, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2, 2011, box office, $1.34 billion. It all ends. And to be sure, it was a fitting end for the storied franchise. Perhaps no other series of children's films, and few series of films period, has delivered as consistently good visuals and narrative as Harry Potter. The event that was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2 can be called nothing less than epic. Picking up right where Part 1 left off, Harry grieves by the seaside grave of the fallen Dobby. His gravestone reads a free elf. The death of Dobby left moviegoers, even those schooled on and prepared by the source material, gutted. It's one thing to absorb the pathos from the words on the written page, but the movie medium can pack a harder punch. Of course, without a reverent retelling of the story crafted by the novel's author, the words become hollow on the screen. And over the course of 8 films, the Potter franchise has tried on 4 directors and 2 writers, finding success and failure through numerous evolutions. All the while, the 3 central actors, Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, grew up along with hordes of avid fans. The story depends so much on caring for Harry. Played with timidity by the ever-boyish Radcliffe, we first met Harry as he made his bed under the stairs in the unwelcoming home of a relative. Cast out because he was different, the bespectacled Harry won us over with each installment in the series, managing, often awkwardly, to combat the forces of Voldemort with pure goodness. But as students of the books know, Harry's innocence is but part of his defense. And the grand plan, politics and treachery, play out in Part 2 in a clever and challenging manner. What started out in 2001 as a kid's fantasy matured into something of surprising import and lasting impact. Number 9, Black Panther, 2018, box office, $1.35 billion. Black Panther might be the first MCU film that could claim to most clearly be an expression of a particular director's voice. We shouldn't go so far as to call it auteurist, because it's still a Disney movie and, perhaps ironically, a part of that monopolizing empire, i.e., eat the rich, but Black Panther's action scenes, especially, feel one with Coogler's oeuvre. Look only to an early scene in a South Korean casino, in which T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, Okoye, Denai Guerrero, and Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o, plan to intercept a deal between Klawa and everyone's favorite CIA milquetoast, Everett Ross, Martin Freeman, lovable, for a vibranium-filled artifact which Klawa stole from some colonizer-run museum with Killmonger's help. We're introduced to Klawa through the surprising spryness of his violence. Andy Serkis, too, freed from mocap, is still an amazing presence, even as a gangster shitbag, and Coogler gets on his wavelength, carving out the geography of the casino in long tracking shots, much like he convinced us to love stained, shitty-seeming Philadelphia gyms in Creed by helping us to comprehend the many crevices and corners of each hole in the wall. When the casino brawl breaks out into the streets, morphing into a death-defying car chase, slow motion thankfully kept to a minimum, we feel as if we know exactly what these characters, and this wonderful director, are capable of. Cue magnificent Vince Staples track. Number 8, Avengers, Age of Ultron, 2015, box office, $1.41 billion. The second Avengers film was warmly received when it initially arrived. but then suffered a bit of immediate blowback, with many superhero genre geeks asserting themselves that although it was undeniably an entertaining film, it represented something of a step back from Joss Whedon's record-smashing original. Even if it can't quite match it, and occasionally feels like a bridge toward the next Avengers story, there's still a whole lot to enjoy in this action-packed yarn. James Spader excels as the voice of the godlike Ultron, a wonderfully arrogant, immature AI character who is only undermined by plot, rather than performance. Ultimately, though, we may remember Age of Ultron more for the storyline fallout it helped generate in the MCU, as Tony Stark's guilt at creating Ultron is instrumental in driving his position in the fabulous Civil War. Looking back on it in the wake of several other MCU films, its stature has somewhat grown as a result of what it has helped build. Number 7, Furious 7, 2015, box office, $1.52 billion. Watching the 7th installment of the adrenaline-fueled Fast and Furious franchise, one gets the distinct impression that, when faced with a creative choice, the filmmakers asked themselves, what's the most insane, over-the-top thing we can do here? Then they did just that. For a series of films that has been a continual escalation in physics-defying stunts, Furious 7 takes it to an entirely new level. The result is a damn lot of fun. Furious 7 is part revenge thriller, part daring heist, and more than a little of a loving goodbye to a dear friend. Franchise star Paul Walker died in a car crash before filming was complete, and both his life and death loom large over the movie. As his character, Brian O'Connor, experiences one harrowing escapade after another, you wait for the moment where he meets his end. It feels inevitable, and waiting around every corner. There are more than a few instances where Walker's face is digitally pasted on another body. His brothers stood in for him to help finish the production. The movie is also a celebration of his life. There's much talk about family in the Furious films. The gang's been picking up strays and bringing them into the fold since day one. The chemistry between the cast is undeniable, and it's easy to see how much everyone involved enjoys themselves. Furious 7 traffics so heavily in history that it will carry the most weight with already extant fans, especially in an emotional sense. That said, there are enough WTF action moments and eye candy to sell the movie to more than just diehards. Number 6, The Avengers, 2012, box office, $1.52 billion. Nestled amongst the gaudy box office numbers of Joss Whedon's blockbuster is a much simpler achievement. Yes, The Avengers should evoke a deserved appreciation of Whedon's directorial skills. And yes, the film's release and reception make for a natural and that's when it was official moment that the MCU took over Hollywood. But for comic book fans especially, The Avengers represents the first instance of the superhero team dynamic truly captured and sustained on film. Even though the X-Men and the Fantastic Four had received big screen treatment, those films were all still pretty static. The interaction between both heroes and villains were slow, separate vignettes rather than two-way, three-way or more-way battles. If Raimi's Spider-Man showed why comic book superheroes are fun, The Avengers showed why superhero teams are. Number 5, Jurassic World, 2018, box office, $1.67 billion. Jurassic World marks the fourth entry in its paleontological franchise, but it's probably more important as the second chapter in the story of Chris Pratt's unexpected ascent to movie stardom. Pratt, seemingly born to make a career out of playing lovable doofuses, made his goofy tenor work for him in Guardians of the Galaxy. With Jurassic World, he's shed that skin almost entirely in favor of aping the hard-jawed macho men of the 1950s B-movie canon. That transformation lends the film inevitability, as if brand recognition didn't give Jurassic World enough of a box office edge. The image of Pratt riding a motorcycle side by side a quartet of raptors should sold Colin Trevorrow's picture to the crowds. That scene, and others like it, let Jurassic World function as a suitably thrilling roller coaster ride. Unsurprisingly, they don't add up to a particularly good movie, but Trevorrow has enough diversion stored up his sleeve that the film's inconsistencies and overarching sloppiness almost don't matter. Here, we finally get to see John Hammond's loopy vision of a Dino theme park brought to fruition. Number 4, Avengers, Infinity War, 2018, box office, $2.05 billion. Avengers, Infinity War is epic in a way that has been often aspired to but never fully grasped when it comes to the translation from comic book panel to the big screen. It's what happens when movie makers take their source material seriously, eschewing unnecessary melodrama even as they fully embrace the grandeur, the sheer spectacle, of it all. And if there's one lesson Disney has learned, it's that if you focus on the viewer experience, the product lines will take care of themselves. For every frenetic fight scene in Avengers, Infinity War, and there are plenty of them. There are myriad character interactions and emotional beats the audience has been prepped for by the previous films. Okay, maybe not 2008's The Incredible Hulk. As a result, writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely have ample room to riff and play as characters meet for the first time or see each other again. Some of the interactions are easy to anticipate, if no less enjoyable, the immediate ego clash between Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange and Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, for example, but our familiarity with these characters adds resonance to nearly every scene and every line, as the vestiges and ripples of emotional arcs laid down in the last decade's worth of movies bolster even the smallest moment. Number 3, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, 2015, box office, $2.07 billion. The Force Awakens was the remedy to the near-terminal prequelitis of fans. J.J. Abrams and company accomplished this act of restorative cinema primarily through a return to the dirty future aesthetic that made the original trilogy feel so real, no matter how absurd the dialogue being delivered by the characters. That's not to say CGI is lacking, but whereas budget and technology constraints help the first 3 films and an overabundance hurt the next 3, the balance between practical and special effects in The Force Awakens feels near perfect. I say primarily not to take away from other factors, such as casting. Daisy Ridley, John Boyega and Adam Driver are all solid, and Oscar Isaac brings a palpable vigor to his role. Ultimately, The Force Awakens just feels right in ways the prequels never did. Number 3, Titanic, 1997, box office, $2.19 billion. Almost 20 years after its theatrical debut, James Cameron's blockbuster epic is still so ubiquitous in the pop culture zeitgeist. Its filmmaking marvels are drowned out by young Kate and Leo nostalgia and that damn Celine Dion caterwaul, not to mention the now late James Horner's iconic score. Cameron's ear for dialogue may be woefully leaden, but he's a shrewd storyteller, plunking a Romeo and Juliet redux aboard the doomed ocean liner and flanking the fictional romance with historical details, groundbreaking special effects and jaw-dropping visuals. The narrative lapses are at times dumbfounding. Let's face it, old Rose, who tosses a priceless artifact into the abyss after waxing ad nauseum about herself, is a thoughtless jerk, and the aforementioned dialogue is awful, to say nothing of Billy Zane doing his best mustache-twirling silent movie villain. But Titanic remains a painstaking testament to the all-in-Hollywood spectacle. Number 3, Avatar, 2009, box office, $2.79 billion. Never before have so many cynics wanted to hate a movie, and never have they been so thoroughly thwarted, as with James Cameron's Avatar. Despite my own cynicism, I walked out of the theater with the full realization that the cinematic experience had changed. I felt like those early moviegoers at the turn of the last century, who ducked as the train sped toward the camera. I was transported back to 1977, watching the Imperial cruiser loom onto screen, seeming to go on forever, and later lost in amazement at the cantina scene. James Cameron created the first cinematic world that truly captures the otherness of an imaginary world, the first to compete with the rich world that, previously, only the mind's eye, fed by the best science fiction writers, could construct. It's more than eye candy and technical wizardry. Avatar is a testament to power of imagination. While the story structure may be paint-by-numbers epic archetype, it hardly matters. You're quickly dazzled, lost in wonderment and fully committed to this beautiful, expertly paced and epic thrill ride. So which movie impressed you the most? Let us know in the comment below. Also check out one of these other videos and subscribe to World Top Record channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.